Palm Sunday morning, and Reverend Kelly Clem is leading the service at Goshen United Methodist Church. Her 4-year-old daughter, Hannah, sits with the children's choir. Kelly had heard there might be storms later that day. She'd brought umbrellas, just in case anyone needed to get to their car DRI. At the half-hour mark, the children begin a hymn introducing Jesus. Then the power goes out. No backing track, no music, just voices. The children keep singing anyway. Wind hammering the windows, rain drumming the roof. Underneath it, children's voices still singing. For a moment, it felt less like a storm and more like something being answered. Not one of the 46 people inside knew a tornado was already on top of them.
And that tornado warning for Blount County is in effect until 12:45 this afternoon.
First, it just sounded like hard rain, then hail, then something else.
And then a window broke out somewhere over there, big window, and somebody yelled, or everybody yelled, I don't know what, hit the floor. We all went under the pews.
12 minutes before that window shattered, a tornado warning had already been issued for the county they were sitting in. Not one person inside that church would ever hear it. This is the Piedmont tornado. While Kelly gets Hannah ready for the children's choir 300 miles west, the atmosphere has already made a decision. There's no dramatic trough in the jet stream, no obvious warning sign forecasters usually look for, but every ingredient for a violent tornado is quietly locking into place. And critically, there's almost no cap, nothing holding the atmosphere down until afternoon. It's all ready to go by sunrise.
One reason for the high death toll was that all the elements that produce a tornado outbreak were missing as late as 7 a.m. and didn't come together until just when the outbreak was warming up.
By 9:18, a tornado watch covers northern Alabama. A supercell has already fired near Columbus, Mississippi, moving northeast at 50 miles an hour, rotating hard. And there's only one storm on radar, which means it will have the entire atmosphere to itself. Kelly Clem has no idea any of this exists. She's checking that Hannah's choir robe is buttoned. At 10:55 that morning, the tornado touches down southwest of Ragland in St. Clair County. It's already moving northeast at 45 to 55 miles an hour, fast enough that outrunning it on foot was never an option. The first homes it reaches are poorly built, some without basements. It doesn't slow down to find out which ones.
I saw the tornado coming over the building right here, and I saw all kinds of this stuff right here. It looked like it was coming straight for the house, and like any normal person, they'd be scared.
At Lake Neely, the tornado catches people still out on the water. One man makes it to a brick boathouse and survives as the walls come down around him. Betty Brown doesn't reach shelter. She's caught in the open as the tornado hits, killed by flying debris in a lot full of boats and trucks. She's the first person it kills, not the last. Minutes later, on US 431 near Ohatchee, a van is caught crossing open road. The tornado throws it into a ditch. The driver is killed. 3 others inside live. This storm has been on the ground for barely 20 minutes, and it isn't slowing down. It isn't lifting. It's heading northeast, directly for Piedmont. At 11:35 a.m., it crosses into Cherokee County. 4 minutes later, it reaches a small brick church where a woman is buttoning her daughter's choir robe. Back inside Goshen, the hymn is still going. Kelly is at the front. Hannah is on the pew with the other children. The congregation, shoulder to shoulder, heads bowed, the way they were in the middle of a service they'd been to 1,000 times. They're not bracing. They don't know to brace. To them, this is still just a bad storm outside. That's the last moment before everything changes. The front wall gave way. First, bricks, cinder blocks, wooden beams, falling 30 feet from a roof that no longer had anything holding it up. Not onto an empty room, onto a congregation still on its knees. The entire structure folded inward. Kelly Clem watched it happen from the front of her own church. Less than 30 seconds later, it was over.
Everybody was screaming and running around and trying to get down, going hysterical.
When the dust settled, Pastor Kelly looked up from the altar and saw the sky. There was no roof left between her and it. In front of her, over 100 bodies, covered in dust and debris. Some were moving, some weren't. Officer Mike Nessler was the first emergency responder to reach the scene, 15 years on the job, and nothing in them had prepared him for this. For a moment, he didn't know where to start. Somewhere in that wreckage, Kelly Clem was about to start looking for her daughter. The wreckage doesn't stay silent for long. Kelly Clem starts moving through it, toward the front pew, toward Hannah.
The hardest thing was not to step on someone and not to hurt someone, because people were actually under layers, under the pews, or some of them to my right were under the roof.
She finds Hannah under a pew.
And I just remember talking to her, and I patted her, and I said, "Mama's right here," and I just tried to stay with her. And then I saw a rescue worker coming, and I thought, okay, here's our angel.
The rescue worker took Hannah. Kelly didn't know where. For a long time, she let herself believe her daughter had been taken to a hospital, that she'd be okay. She didn't let herself stop. Somewhere in the wreckage, something pulled her back to where she still had to be.
Because as I looked at myself, I realized I have my robe on. And I went, oh, that's right, I'm the pastor here.
She stayed for an hour and a half. Bodies had already been laid out on the carport of the house next door. She had seen them. She knew what the situation was, but nobody had told her about Hannah. She eventually walked home, a mile and a half down the main road, alone, still in her robe. It was at the hospital, hours later, that someone finally came and asked her what Hannah had been wearing that morning.
By that point, I had so many friends who would come and other ministers, and they just were surrounding me. And then one of them came and said, "We just need to know what she was wearing." And I described it, and then they told me. And, then I had to let down and then try to get word to my family, who were all over the place.
She had been carrying it alone for hours before anyone told her. Her husband Dale was still in Oklahoma. It would take several more hours, a secretary relaying a message, a van pulled off the side of a road, a campus minister walking over to tell him something had happened to his wife's church. Before he found out at all, by the time Dale Clem learned Hannah was gone, Kelly had already been carrying it by herself for most of the day. 12 minutes.
March 27th, 1994.
We'd had Doppler radar for a year. We had pretty good experience with it. And the meteorologists on duty had decided that this supercell storm warranted tornado warnings as a velocity couplet. A rotation within the thunderstorm developed, and they actually issued the warning 12 minutes before the tornado crossed into Cherokee County.
12 minutes. Enough time to move a congregation out of an open sanctuary.
And that's probably the biggest tragedy of the whole event, was the fact that the detection, the distribution of the warning was very, very good, but where the warning process fell down was that the people at Goshen United Methodist Church simply did not know the danger that was approaching their location.
Into anywhere safer. The warning reached radio towers, television stations, every home with a weather radio tuned to the right county. It never reached one small brick church, where a congregation was 3 verses into a hymn. Nobody had a way of interrupting. The church was destroyed 12 minutes after the warning went out. A few miles past Goshen, the tornado struck 2 more churches, Pleasant Arbor, then Union Grove.
Dad was preaching, and the lights flickered off about 5 times, and then he hollered, "Get down," and everybody went under the bench.
At Union Grove, the winds tore the steeple loose and dropped a 2,000-pound bell in front of the building. Had it fallen the other way, inward onto the pews, the toll there would have been far worse. Then, after 50 miles on the ground, the tornado climbed back into the clouds just short of the Georgia line and vanished. But the outbreak that produced it was only getting started. Piedmont was not the only town that lost something on Palm Sunday.
That same storm system spawned tornadoes as it moved across DeKalb County. Rainsville, Antioch, Grove Oak. These small DeKalb County towns looked much the same Sunday, devastated. Homes like this one were ripped off their foundation.
It was the third notable tornado outbreak that occurred on Palm Sunday and the second to take place in the southeastern U.S. It was the most notable tornado event of the year.
But the storm that spawned it wasn't finished. The same supercell crossed into Georgia and dropped a new tornado, another violent one, killing 3 more people in mobile homes before it was done. In all, that single storm tracked more than 200 miles.
I knew right then it was a tornado, so I grabbed my wife and we took off down the hall, and immediately the living room and the kitchen roof just fell in, and we just kind of ducked down and took cover.
A total of 27 tornadoes tore up Alabama, Georgia, South and North Carolina, causing $140 million in damage.
27 tornadoes, 5 states, and at the center of all of it, one church, one congregation, one hymn that never finished. The wind stops. The rain stops. What's left is quiet.
Tornado came off to my left, over the hills, over this way. It came through, hit towards the rear, and came through and hit to the middle. The church here.
Days later, someone walks through what's left of it with a camera. There's little narration needed for what the lens finds.
We were sitting on that bench.
Okay. This is Linda
I was
talking.
sitting on the end, and my kids were all the way down.
The man behind her got up to run for his children at the front and was thrown clean out of the church. He walked away with 3 broken ribs. 1 pew over, the outcome was different. The worst of it fell where the brick wall came down, where most of the dead were found. A hymnal, a pair of shoes, a choir robe, still folded the way a child had left it before walking down the aisle that morning. None of it means anything to a stranger. All of it means everything to Piedmont. 20 families in a town of 6,000 people lost someone that morning. In a place that size, there was nobody left who didn't know at least one of the names. The funerals ran through the entire week that followed. Hannah Clem's was on Wednesday. Survivors were left to carry their own version of that morning forward. She was a child.
I was in the back of a van, and I remember looking over, and there was 2 other kids all around me. And I remember taking my hair. I used to be blonde. And I remember taking my hair and just being full of blood. There was blood coming from everywhere, and just wondering where all the blood was coming from.
She didn't yet understand what had happened to her or to the church around her. Dale Clem was still hundreds of miles away when he finally got word that his daughter was gone.
Hannah was not mine. She was a gift to be enjoyed. She wasn't mine for forever. She was just a gift. I received a gift of 4 years, and that's all.
The Goshen United Methodist Church was eventually rebuilt down the road. A memorial garden now sits where the sanctuary once stood. 20 names are remembered there. Cherokee County had no tornado sirens on March 27, 1994. The warning existed. The detection was good. The distribution was good. The 12 minutes were there. The people inside Goshen United Methodist Church simply never heard any of it. After the tornado, federal grant money came through. The sirens were built. They stand in Cherokee County today.